Hello people of the Megaverse! This is Matt Lemke with another flip-through review from Through Gamer Goggles. And today we're going to talk about Coalition Wars, The Final Siege. Alright, so this is the final book of the Coalition Wars campaign, which this is one of the larger books of the campaign. It's I think 225 pages. Oh, no, I lied. 224 pages. It's written by, well, several authors, primarily, Kevin Shimbida. I probably just said that wrong again. I am a bad Polak. Shimbieda. That's probably closer. Anyway, so the story is Coalition invades Tolkeen, thinking they're a threat to the Coalition states and the world around them and their type of well-being. Tolkeen decides to fight back. They end up driving the Coalition back, crippling them in many, many ways. Tolkeen believes that the Coalition states have been dealt such a devastating blow that nothing's going to come out of it. Warriors have started to return home in Tolkeen and repopulate the cities and towns on the outskirts of Tolkeen. Meanwhile, the Coalition states are preparing for war again. And at the same time, Free Quebec has launched negotiations with Tolkeen, and Tolkeen is supposed to send them help after they do their blitzkrieg attack, which has already happened, on the Coalition states. Now, basically what Tolkien's going to do is send demons to help them fight the Coalition in Free Quebec, because the Coalition is currently fighting a war on two fronts. Free Quebec had no idea that the Coalition lost, got their butts kicked, and was driven out of the Tolkeen area. So, when Tolkeen actually sends the demons to Free Quebec, they actually sent 6,000 demons instead of the 2,000 they said they were going to. And for whatever reason, Free Quebec soldiers turned and attacked the Tolkeen forces. Maybe they were too offended by the demons that were sent, or whatever. It's not totally clear. You can play that up however you want in your storyline. So what happens then is they're so outnumbered, they're getting devastated. I don't remember the numbers, but it was something like there were 3,000 Free Quebec warriors and 1,900 of them lose their lives. So one of the generals of Free Quebec, who is a respected general, calls out to the Coalition, and the Coalition then sends a whole bunch of Samus troops to help them out. The Coalition War and the Free Quebecian War, or Quebecois, I'm going to call it Quebecian. The people are Quebecois. Sounds very Indian to me, which is cool. Is officially over. Tolkeen is busy celebrating, and the Coalition decides to mount a counter-assault. And that's pretty much where this book really begins. That is the story that pretty much gets you up to par. Now it's a one-front war. So Tolkeen is like, oh, okay, boom, 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 boom. We're going to do whatever. Their army is very spread out now. And as a result, they take heavy losses. Tolkien's forces pretty much retreat to the cities. The two that I'm going to talk about most are Tolkeen, obviously, and Freehold, because they're the two coolest. And there's a lot of stuff in this book. I mean, it's a big book, and I hope I can cover everything I want to cover in the 15 minutes that I normally spend on a book review like this. The art, there's a lot of cool maps. If you're being a miniature gamer, I like some of the maps because it's very World War II-esque. I can't even find one right now, but they've got the little arrows of troop movement and stuff like that, and I love that stuff. I wish I could get an old table like they used in World War II and just have it somewhere, like hang it on the wall and magnetize it and put the little models on it. Here's where the Germans are, and here's what we have to do. I love that stuff. Anyway, so I love the maps. The art is, it's Great art. I mean, I love the cover. This is one of my favorite covers of all the Rift books. I'm not sure who did this cover off the top of my head. Maybe I should look. John Zalesnik. So, all right. One of the best chapters in the book is Tolkeen and Chaos. It gives you all kinds of cool stuff. Lots of charts, lots of random rolling, because the Coalition has done some really cool things. They became very surgical. They had operatives that snuck into the city and spied on it, and they learned and they studied and they discovered that if you could hit certain points, you could mess with the magic system that the magic users use in Tolkeen. So they did that. And as a result, there's all kinds of weird and crazy things that are going on. Like, for example, there's charts on spell backlash, so spells can go wrong and backfire on the caster or the people around them. And certain things like dimensional anomalies, which are rad and technically bad. I suspect it would be a very challenging thing to do in this book, if you follow this book to the T, to play a group of Tolkeen magic users because of all the chaotic things that are going on. It'd be fun. In fact, I'd be trying to cast things to make them go wrong. Anyway, enough of that. So the book also breaks down Tolkien's army, and one of the cooler things about that was the Warlord Firsol, or Firesol. I wrote down Firsol, Firsol, which means probably short for fire and sun. But he is one of the warlords of part of the Tolkeen armies, one of the sections of the army, and he's a elementalist, which is he's crazy cool because he does things like he throws little mini fireballs with his hand, which I thought was cool. But yeah, I don't think he could take out a Samus on his own. He is still a human. With that said, there's a whole section on weapons and vehicles I'm not going to get too much into because, I mean, while weapons and vehicles are cool, I thought it was neater that they had a magical bestiary, so to speak. And one of the cooler things is gargoyles and gargoyles. These are really big beasts, right? They have as much as, I mean, if you roll it and just don't max it out, they have as much as 400 MDC, and then on top of that, they can be equipped. And these guys can carry huge masses of armament. I mean, so basically they're walking giants with tanks that think that don't need pilots. They're really cool. If they ever make a miniatures game for Rifts, I want to see the Coalition Wars campaign. There's so much stuff. In fact, that should be the game, Kevin. I know you got a lot on your plate, but in 3 years, that's what you got to do. So, one of the better things of the book, and this is a pretty good section, I think it's about 30 pages, is they have a handful of NPCs that are important to the storyline, and then they have the Circle of 12, which are super important to the storyline because they make most of the wartime decisions. And there's about 30 pages between the 4 or 5 key NPCs. I mean, there's more NPCs than that, but they have one section that's just dedicated to these key NPCs, and they're the most important characters of the storyline. There's a group of Atlanteans that are really kind of like outcasts from Atlantis. It's really kind of a neat hodgepodge group, and there's just about anything in there. So you have slaves that escaped, you have some Atlanteans that are tattoo men, and cool things like that. But one of the better groups that they talk about is the Time Walkers. There's only 4 of them, and they're led by a temporal adept mage, he's just a lot of fun. Now we're into Freehold, which is the City of Dragons. It's populated, well, by a lot of dragons and a lot of refugees. The city itself is pretty much undefended, and I think one of the important things to note about Freehold is it's got dragons in it. And there's this thing about dragons. dragon lords. And basically dragon lords are these ancient dragons that are super, super powerful. And if the dragons ever decided to combine their powers together, I mean the dragon lords, they would probably wipe whatever they wanted off the face of the earth because they're just that powerful. But the problem with dragon lords is they believe things like combat and the affairs of mortal men, because they believe themselves to be godlike, are beneath them. They don't have to fight. They can just fly away and not be bothered by it. And as a result, Freehold has a lot of really cool NPCs. And because they're dragons and they're so powerful, you can make them go anywhere in the Megaverse. Pretty much that simple. And one of the last things that's really cool about this book is the way they did the adventures. They did a hook, line, and sinker series where there's like different stages of this final siege. And each siege is broken down into like 4 or 5 adventures. I like that because unlike many books that the Coalition writes, that Palladium writes for Rifts, is that you can use this book in many ways. You can write your own campaign, or you can do something that they don't normally do and use those as a rough guide to play through that section of the campaign. After seeing what they did with the final siege, I wish they would have done that in all of the super story relevant books. What do I think about Final Siege? There is a ton of information in this book. There is so much information in this book that the section on Freehold could have actually been a small book on its own. I think maybe it would have needed to have been expanded just a little bit. I believe that there's enough material in Kevin's head and his team's head that they could have done that without any difficulty. But then you would have had another book for the Coalition Wars. I actually am really impressed with the book because I knew how it was going to end. I mean, we all do. But just in case you don't, I'm not going to tell you who wins. You probably already have that idea. So I thought it was going to be written in such a way that there wasn't going to be a lot of story. And there's a tremendous amount of story in here. If you like riffs, the first, I think, 40 pages or so, it's like reading a book. And I didn't want to put it down. In fact, I enjoyed reading the first 40 pages so much that I was disappointed that the story was first. I was like, and then it's all technical. And it just felt like there was no more action. You know, but all in all, this is solid. It's one of the better books in the series. I think the Cyber Knight storyline arc of the Coalition Wars is one of the better books, but that's only because I'm a Knight fan. With that said, go buy all the books. There's only 6 of them, and you need them to play your Coalition War campaign. Bye guys, thanks for watching. Matt Lemke with Through Gamer Goggles, gamer-goggles.com.